All right, hey, it's Kenton here, and I'm here with Joel Berg. Joel, you're the CEO of Got Energy solar company here in Prince George, and I run Kenton Contracting, which is a small contracting company, mostly exteriors, a lot of metal, roofing, that type of thing. And we're going to dig into something that is really something that both you and I have struggled with in our lives and are working through and are like trying to hit it head on.
Determined to do something about it.
Absolutely. And that's a challenge of people pleasing, and people pleasing on its own, may not be highly destructive, but it certainly can be. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to get into that today. And so if you are a people pleaser and you find that it's not always a positive impact in your life, this is an episode for you.
Yes.
And if you are not a people pleaser and have no idea what we're talking about, you know what? Click the next one because you're going to love it. All right. Thank you, guys. And let's get into this.
All right.
There is a discipline of the mind that is required.
You got to get rid of the imagination of things that aren't real.
But as much as lies in you, live peaceably with people. And I think on an individual basis, that's something that we can pursue. All right. Well, it's good to be with you here, Joel. It's been, we've been at this now for whatever, eight-ish months. And it's the first time that you and I get to sit down together, just the two of us. So it's fantastic.
Which is crazy, actually.
It's overdue.
How did we wait so long?
I don't know.
Yes.
I'm curious to see where the conversation goes. I want to set it up this way. We've had a heart-to-heart as a team recently, which I think was maybe an ounce deeper than we normally go.
More than an ounce. But
maybe more than an ounce. And I think there's a lot of things that will come out of that discussion. And I think that it's interesting because I'm a non-confrontational person, and I typically try to avoid conflict at all costs. And I don't think what we had was exactly a conflict. I think it wasn't actually at all a conflict, but it was a hard, somewhat uncomfortable conversation. Just peeling back a few layers and digging at some stuff that I think if we were all in a selfish zone would say, let's sooner keep this stuff hidden.
Uh-huh.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And so one of the things I think that you and I discovered is that we're both in the zone of people pleasers. That people pleasing, making sure that people are happy with us, is a natural instinct almost, I think, for both of us. Would that be fair?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
More than fair.
And that's what I want to base this conversation around. I know that there's a lot of things that come out of that, but I would like to base it around, first off, when you think of just the term people pleasing, what's your definition? What's your working definition, or how do you view it?
I don't know that this is a perfect definition, but the way that I've been wrestling with this whole thing recently, the way that I've been framing it for myself is around this idea of who's in the driver's seat. And for me, as I've been wrestling with this idea of people pleasing, what I've been realizing is I have been putting not just, I was going to say I've been putting other people in the driver's seat of my decisions, my life. Yeah. But it's, in some ways that's actually the wrong way to put it. As had somebody kind of prod me on this just recently, and they said, it's not just that you're putting other people in the driver's seat and letting them make the decisions. You're actually allowing your perception of other people to become the driver of your decisions. Because sometimes I'll do something because I think, if I don't do this, so-and-so is going to think that I'm lazy.
Sure.
Or something.
Yep.
And that person may not even have thought about me once in the day.
Yeah.
But it's my imagination of even pleasing that person that ends up driving how I spend my time, how I build my schedule, how much I sleep, all of those things. And so it's been this thing around who's in the driver's seat, but it's not just putting other people in. It's actually often just my perception, what I imagine other people think.
I think that's an important distinction.
That was huge for me.
Yeah, it's an important distinction. And as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm totally there. And it's shocking how often our perceptions are wrong.
Yeah, and the thing is, they feel so right, and because I naturally tend more towards people pleasing, I try to mitigate the risks. And so even if I'm like, well, yeah, they might not actually think that.
Sure.
But what if they do?
Yeah.
I might as well do this thing anyway, just in case they do.
Huh.
And so it gets even outside the realm of certainty entirely. And I'm making
to a place of speculation.
Yeah. And I build my life on it.
Yeah.
It's like the sand, that whole parable of build my life on the sand. It's literally, there is not a solid thing under me, and I'm building on it.
So do you define people pleasing as inherently negative?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And that's probably part of why this is challenging, is in some ways I feel like God has gifted me to be perceptive around some of those relational dynamics where it's like, this is going to influence this, which is going to make this person think this. And it allows me to be a good communicator because I can kind of preempt, or I can imagine something coming before it comes, and I can conversationally weave things together. And so there's a gift, a goodness in there. But then it spills over into the negative where I'm building on sand. I'm making decisions around things that aren't real, that are, it's never going to go there. But I'm like, what if it does? And so you and I are both like sidewalk philosophers, I feel like, which is why this is going to be fun because neither of us are technically psychologists or psychiatrists or trained in these things whatsoever. But we've both read broadly, I think, and we've both been interested in human nature for our lives. And so, and we have a working man's understanding of how other brains work and a very foggy understanding of how our own brains work. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And so, but we're often, I think that you and I are united this way as well, is that we're often quite willing to make a guess, you know, and just think that we know what motivates someone or that we perceive what's going on at a deeper level than what most people do. Yeah. And we may or may not be right on the time, but I think so. This conversation is framed from this place of like observation, but not professionalism per se. Yeah. But I think that where we're coming from is, you know, our audience is largely contractors, guys that are working on the tools, and they're also perceptive, many of them. Yeah. I mean, you don't work for the right customers if you don't have a clue who you want to work for, and you don't know who you want to work for unless you have some kind of perception. There's just so many things that a business owner has to do intuitively to make things work. And if those senses aren't working, then you're not succeeding. And so it's interesting. I guess what we're saying is that people pleasing is amoral, like many things in our lives, but can be used for good or for bad. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because my personal opinion is that people who are typically people pleasers are exceptional in the service industry. Because like, I don't want a waiter at a good restaurant to not be a people pleaser. Really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that sucks. It's like, you know, and you get those that they're just like, they're impartial. They're just like, whatever. If you enjoyed this, great. Leave me a good tip. If you don't, you know what? Like, have a nice day.
Yeah.
But people who are people pleasers, man, you feel it.
Yeah.
You know, they can make your day. Like a good people pleaser working in their gifting can make your day.
Maybe what we're talking about is actually two different things. I'm just thinking this for the first time,
sure.
but we talk about people pleasing, and actually, I think when I'm operating more healthily, then that's not really my goal, to please people.
Yeah.
I think when I'm in a really healthy space, my goal is to love people.
Okay.
Which I think is different. Sometimes loving somebody doesn't mean, it means actually not pleasing them. If pleasing people becomes the goal, I think we're off track. So there's the perception piece of like, where's this person at? How are they going to hear what I'm saying or doing? And how should I maybe adjust what I'm doing based on that information? But I think when the goal is pleasing somebody, then I kind of feel like maybe that's off track.
It can get greasy really fast. So let's back away from the definition a tiny bit, and we're going to come at it probably from a few different angles. So I think that we'll work it more fully as we go along. And I do think that this is something that like a Google definition is not that helpful, to be honest.
No.
Because I feel like this is a thought process as well, and it's also personality trait that is something that is living, and so there's a lot of aspects to it, a lot of facets. When did you notice that this is a personality trait of yours? Like, were you born with this, or is this something that you developed?
Oh man, should bring my mom on and ask her.
I mean, were you ever shy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like now I do public speaking all the time, but there was a point in time I remember having to do a presentation in my grade 7 English class.
Okay.
And I almost shook myself to the floor. I was so nervous to speak in front of people that I knew well, like they were my friends and whatever. But I think that might be a little bit separate from people pleasing. I
think it is, but I think it's just a nuance of it.
Yeah,
I think,
there's probably a connection somewhat.
People who are extremely overt about their thoughts when they're young typically are not people pleasers and typically aren't shy. I think there's a slight correlation there, at least would be my guess.
Yeah, it's really I'm not great at going back memory wise to early days. My early childhood memories are blurry, and
I thought I was the only one.
but I feel like as far back as I go with clear memory, I feel like I've seen this.
Okay.
So
from the time where you started evaluating yourself, you'd say that it was there.
If it started at a specific point, it was early.
Okay. And so it could be that you were born with it. It could be that this is just part of your DNA. It's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah. And I wonder, and I think this is a discussion that's well beyond our pay grade as far as, nature versus nurture and all of that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of good reading out there, and I have my own thoughts around it just as a parent and as a kid and, going through life. I think that there's a lot that we ask ourselves around these things. I know I'm constantly amazed with how similar and how different my kids are from each other. I think it's, having all the same essential genetic base.
Yeah.
The variety is outstanding as well as similarities are outstanding. And so I find that cool. But I think that something like people pleasing can definitely be more fostered in some homes than others. I think that, I think it's Jordan Peterson who phrases it as agreeableness versus non-agreeableness. And I think that we're talking about very similar things around this. I think a people pleaser is by nature attempting to be agreeable.
Yeah.
And someone who is non-agreeable, in many ways I've been jealous of people like that in my life, because they can like literally just misstep and hurt people around them, but do it in such a way that they're not actually aware and just move on without missing a stride. And then when they find out that they've, and this is a certain type of good person who is, non-agreeable, I think then if they find out that they've hurt someone, they can be like, oh, I'm sorry, and then just move on. Yeah. And just like there's no second guessing, there's no like staying up at night and rehearsing a conversation. There's none of that, because it's just not part of their DNA. It's not part of the structure.
And something that I've been thinking about a fair bit recently is this isn't just a personality thing, it's also a culture thing. I remember living in China years ago and sitting down with a friend of mine, and this was just a revelatory thought to me. I was telling him about how I was struggling with making a decision about something, and he goes, oh yeah, that's a Canadian thing. And I was like, what? and he's also Canadian, from down south, from Abbotsford, And he's like, oh yeah, it's a Canadian thing. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, culturally, the DNA of Canada is this play the middle road.
Wow.
And from our early days, even inception of the nation, and just key decisions that were made over Canada's history, we've chosen to play the middle road as a country, and we've embedded that into our cultural values. And it's very much this: don't make waves, let each person be kind of you be you sort of a mentality. And so we as Canadians, I think, try to have our cake and eat it too. And so we reap the benefits of what we've sown.
Yeah.
And it shows up. One of the ways I think it shows up is difficulty in decision making, because we're trying to play the middle road. How do I not do this and not do this and somehow merge them together into a perfect middle ground? And it's, in lots of cases, it's either impossible or close to impossible. And so we end up really having a hard time
moving forward.
And so I think also this people pleasing thing, it's embedded into Canadian cultural values.
Oh, interesting.
The way that we think about multiculturalism and a bunch of different things, there's beautiful things about that.
Yes, there are.
But there's also side effects of that, having that cultural value that spill over into our personal lives, and we don't realize, oh, I'm struggling with this, like people pleasing, for example, and we take it on as just a personal thing, but actually the water that we're swimming in culturally is that.
Sure.
And so there's this element to which actually being not that way requires a huge amount of energy because it's countercultural.
And intentionality.
Yeah. And so I hadn't really thought about it in those clear of terms before, but I think part of why I struggle with it and why so many people I know struggle with it is actually it's not just a personality thing. I think some personalities are more that way or not, but the water we're swimming in has got that people pleasing tint to it, and it makes it tough.
And it's funny because we expect a certain amount of that from our kids. Like, we expect that if we are unpleased with them, they should feel bad, right? Like we do. And I'm not sure that that's always the case in all cultures. But certainly it's the case. I mean, and I come from Mennonite background where that's very much a part of the culture, where like if you have caused your parents displeasure, then you should feel the weight of that. Like, that's something that is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And in many ways, like when I think about it, I mean, I had, we were working through something with my youngest this morning, and I just wanted him to please my wife, like just please her, like, and he did not want to please her. and so we had, and that discussion is not over. We're in the middle of it as we speak, and it will, and we're going to find a resolution there. But at the same token, we need our kids to also develop some ability to stand their ground, not necessarily, in the case that I'm dealing with, I think there needs to be a coming around from my youngest, and he will. Yeah. He's a good kid. But I think they also need to know that there's times to stand your ground and to not please those around you, because this is something that matters. And they won't always pick the right thing. And that's the thing. But I think how we address these things is so challenging for me, because I'm like, come on, where's your compliance? Like, let's just please each other here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And it can be scary. Like, I think I can imagine all kinds of situations where my mode of operation has been people pleasing, and I don't like it. I don't like where I am. I don't like where it's going. I don't like how it feels. But when I think about the ways that I could do it differently, I'm like, that the fear of the responses from other people or impact on reputation or whatever it is, the fear's real. So I held back in so many situations, and I have these moments where like it's really clear to me, okay, actually doing what these other people want you to do is absolutely the wrong choice.
Yeah.
And when it's that clear to me, then it's not that hard to swim against it.
Sure. But those are the rare times.
Most of the time it's not that way.
Yeah.
Or most of the time we don't stop to think about it long enough to see it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll give you a real world example that I've been wrestling with, like even today, is work hours.
Yeah.
And I've known this for a long time. This is 6 years in the making, something like that. But I've been in work environments where a lot of the time people are at the office before I am.
Right.
And there's a weight that falls on me.
Sure.
Knowing that, because I share an office with another company, and I want to be perceived as hardworking, committed, all those things.
Yeah.
And so just about every morning I wake up with a weight on my shoulders.
Wow.
Before I even roll out of bed, I'm looking at the clock and I'm gauging, I'm going, my alarm just went off and they're probably in their truck already. And even though I'm there ahead of all of my employees, I still feel this. And they might not be thinking about me in the slightest. Is Joel here? Is he not here? How many hours did he work this week? It doesn't matter that I worked however many hours. We were here first, and why wasn't he here? And they're literally have maybe not thought about it at all in the last 6 months. Where I am or what time I'm showing up. But I wake up with that weight on my shoulders. And I make decisions based on it. And then the kicker is, my wife and I were having a conversation about this last night. She said, and you're doing the same thing to your employees by
interesting
showing up when you do and talking about when you showed up.
Right. Yeah.
On a regular basis or whatever.
Yeah.
You are creating an atmosphere in which maybe your employees are waking up with the same weight on their shoulders. Joel's already there. He's probably already put in an hour before I got there. And he's talking about how swamped he is. And man, I should probably be working a little extra hard to be a team player or whatever. And unwittingly, we create this whole ecosystem that started with me and an imagined perception.
And the irony is that it's actually selfish. like this is the irony, because just listening to the word, you think that this is almost altruistic, where you're thinking about others. You're trying to put their good in front of your own. But I think the challenge with this is that it's actually comes from a selfish place where we're like, we want to look a certain way.
Yeah.
We want to be perceived in a certain fashion. And if we can't be perceived that way, then we're going to adjust things so that perception can be what we feel it needs to be.
Yeah.
And man, is that a lot of weight to carry.
Yeah, because we are trying, it's a control thing. Like we're trying to control the perceptions of potentially even like tens or hundreds of people around us.
Or more.
Simultaneously.
Yeah. And in the end, I think typically it's it's something that eats itself. Because at a certain point, you just can't please everyone. And as that realization, I think as we get older, which is why I think a lot of people, once they hit a certain age, are just a lot freer. And I think usually if you talk to them, they'll be like, yeah, they were kind of bound by people pleasing for a lot of their life until at a certain point they realize, you know what, this game doesn't play. Like, this is just, there's no good end to this.
Yeah.
And so you see this freedom come to certain people, and usually they're just a lot more fun to be around because they're not trying to please you, which means they're just a lot more genuine.
Well, and it affects like this work hours thing. It's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
But even how I schedule my day once I'm at the office. What tasks do I try to do first? What do I do second? What do I shuffle off to some unknown future date? All of those things are being impacted by the same stuff, where I'm imagining how is this customer thinking about us?
Mm-hmm.
Are they antsy? Are they upset? Are they easygoing and who cares when this happens? Whatever. I'm imagining all of these different scenarios, and I'm ordering my day based on my imagination.
Yes.
Which may not be reality at all.
Yeah.
And then add the office team to the mix. I've got all of these other staff people who each have their own priorities and their own concerns and frustrations and whatever. And I'm trying to meld all of those things into my priority structure as well, so that it all works.
And the weight of the algorithm itself is getting top heavy at that point.
Well, okay, yeah, I think of it like computer processing power.
Yeah.
It's like I've only got so much RAM, and eventually it gets bogged down, and it's like starts to grind.
Yes. Yeah.
And I feel that, like, we talk a lot about decision fatigue.
Yeah.
And man, I think a lot of it isn't even that I consciously have a lot of decisions to make in a day.
Yeah.
But it's even this like back end processing that's happening where I'm only making one decision on the surface, but underneath that, my algorithm is making 2,000 decisions to try and figure out what the optimal decision is for that one thing.
Yeah.
And
like everything, layers of complexity, it's not addition, it's multiplication. Because
exponential.
What happens is that, if you've got two decisions that depend on each other, it seems like simple math, but all of a sudden you don't have to go very deep, and all of a sudden you're dealing with just a lot of computation. And I think we can get lost in the fog. I think it's for real. When I look back at when I was a kid, I was an extremely shy kid, like remarkably shy. I did not want attention. I love to observe. And so typically when we go over to people's places, my siblings would go off and play with the other kids, and I would sit at the table and just listen to the adults. That was just my way.
Yeah.
Kids my age didn't interest me. They just didn't. I felt like they were foolish. And so, and it's not, or they just wanted to do like, things that I just didn't enjoy typically. And so whereas I found the parents' conversation from the time I was very young, very, very interesting. And so I would just sit there and I would try to not be noticed. So they would just do their thing. And typically they didn't notice me because I was just quiet and sitting there and listening.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always the case, but that was largely like a lot of my childhood when we were out at home. I played around, like I wasn't inactive, but I loved to read from the time I was young. And so being out of the way kind of melded into, people pleasing. There's a verse that says, "As much as lies in you, live peaceably with all men." And so this is the good side of this. Is like, hey, you know what? If you don't need to pick a fight, don't pick a fight. Like if you're picking it just for the sake of picking it, then you know what? Rethink that. And I really believe that to this day. Like I think that is solid. I don't think that you can poke holes in that. If there's a way to live peaceably, let's live peaceably. And I think this day and age, like currently right now, whenever you're listening to this podcast can vary, but we're recording it while, the world is at war, and I don't like it. Like I don't like the war. And I'm not saying that war is never necessary. I think sometimes it is, sadly. And people can refute that, but I think history tells us that sometimes it's
going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. But as much as lies in you, live peaceably with people. And I think on an individual basis, that's something that we can pursue. But that is not the same as living to try to live to a certain standard of other people or what we perceive other people are thinking about us. Those are two different things. But I think in my own mind, especially, and this is why I think when we're when we're young, it's easy to judge ourselves when we were, as you get older, it's easy to look back and judge yourself because you're like, well, what was I thinking? But the truth is you're young. So you're figuring this stuff out. And I think that when I was young, that verse and verses like it led me to really say, hey, no, I don't want to cause conflict. I don't want to be someone who stirs the pot. I want to get in there. And if anything, I'll bring people together, not push them apart, which overall is great. But at times it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because at times you just need to say some stuff like it is. And it just solves a lot of issues down the road if it can be brought up and dragged into the light. And still to this day, I mean, I'm 53 years old, and I would say I'm getting slightly better at it year by year, but it takes a lot of work.
Okay, two things. One, I'm curious if there are any like real keys that you've unlocked.
Yeah.
But also, I'd be curious to get your thinking on this. Like one of the things that I was thinking about last night around this whole topic was how necessary it is for it to take a long time. Like I'll share a little story. Different area of life, but years ago in university, I had this moment in time where I realized that I thought way too much about my personal appearance.
Right.
Standing in front of the mirror in the morning and
grooming.
Yeah, it was, and I was like, okay, this, like, it's not good.
Yeah.
I just hyper conscious of how I looked.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment of clarity where I was like, this has to die.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember how I made this decision, but I made a decision that for the next 2 weeks, I wasn't allowed to look in the mirror. And so I just committed to that. And for the next 2 weeks, I wouldn't look in the mirror. I wouldn't look at my reflection anywhere. And it was like death, because I would walk out of the house and I'm like, do I have a rooster tail?
It is what it is.
Whatever. And I don't know. Do I have some dirt on my face or drool marks or whatever? Like I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so I'd walk out of the house and I'd walk down the street and I just had to live with my imagination of how I might look to other people. And it killed something in me. Yeah. 2 weeks later, I was a different person. Yeah. And that's never come back. Like I've never had that consciousness about appearance since then. And I've wondered about this people pleasing thing too. And I generally what I hear is that it's this long progression of slowly whittling away at these things. And I can't help but wonder if we took a more aggressive stance on it, if we couldn't kill it faster.
I think it's both. And I think that, so again, the way that I read scripture is that endurance and patience are absolutely massive components of living a life well.
Right.
I just think it's riddled all the way through the best teachings. And I think if you go outside of scripture and there's something that you really respect, it's typically somewhere woven into the principles are endurance, patience. Long suffering is a fruit of the spirit. And I was challenging my son to make Christmas ornaments with love, joy, and this, like, he has a wood burner and was making nice stuff. I said, put long suffering, see if it sells, because it's right in there with all the others.
Yeah.
And so I think that most of the best things in life happen slowly. I think it's just a principle. However, I think that there are key moments in our life that shift our course. Right. And I think if you look back, the shifting, because what it sounds like to me is like in your mind, you killed something, which is maybe the better term, but another way of looking at that is that your course just shifted.
Right.
And so from there, you were walking in a different direction. So when you look back, it seems quite sudden.
Right.
But in truth, there is a shift that happens, but the actual working out of that shift is still it takes time.
Yeah.
Like for that to become a habit and then a lifestyle and then something that you're known for, like this is who you are now. Like, it doesn't happen fast ever. Because if it happens fast, people are like, oh, I wonder what this phase is going to end. But some of these shifts happen, like the directional shift can happen fast, but I don't think the actual change happens fast. If that makes any sense. Right. And so I think like you're at a point right now where I have faith to believe that you're in a shifting moment of direction when it comes to this. And so, and that's exciting. Because that means that you, as soon as you start walking, it's wild. I often think of this when I'm driving on the highway. It's like you're driving 100K and this guy's driving 100K and you're passing like this, but when you're passing each other, it's 200K. Like, that's why head-on collisions are so barbaric, right? Which sadly we've seen a lot of this winter because our roads have been crazy, man. The weather's been wild. But it's sensational because the speed. And so shifting direction on something, it appears like you can look and say, well, that's sudden. You're still just walking, but it's just the opposite direction. And very quickly your world's apart. And so when I look at, my trajectory with some of these things, typically I haven't shifted direction enough for it to be super dramatic.
Right.
But in this particular thing, I will tell you, the first mini revelation that I had around this, because I struggled with it to the point where, my wife would call me out on it, and I was just like, I know, and this is who I am, basically. And she was just like, great, because the truth is,
thanks a lot.
And I think that this is an important note to make, and I'd like to hear your thoughts as we dig into my elongated answer, is that I think that people pleasing, how it looks, how it feels, how dirty it becomes, changes a lot with relationship. If I'm serving you at a restaurant and I'm pleasing you, I'm maybe not loving you, right? I may there's nothing deep about it necessarily. Right. I might be a person who deeply cares about people, or I may not. I may just want to please you because I want a good tip and I want you to have a good experience on a peripheral level. That works quite well. It's like, okay, I can accept that, and if you're really good at it and you seem like a very genuine person, then it can be, there's the odd restaurant where you walk away from and you're like, dang, those parents should be happy they raised that kid, right? That's fantastic. But then as you get to know someone more, that doesn't work anymore. I had one buddy, he goes, I intentionally displease my wife often. And I'm like, dude. And this guy's like married for a long time. Yeah. And it was his clumsy way of saying, like, he said, when I tried to please her all the time, she was just madder and madder and madder at me. And I'm like, oh. He goes, and then I just like gave up one day and just did what I wanted to do. And I came home happier and we were fine. And I'm like, it's not exactly that simple, but that was his way of describing that he just stopped trying to pander to her and try to treat her like something that his perception of her was what was going to rule the day. And so I think that he just moved into, and he's not super articulate. So it was interesting. He's an interesting guy, but it was just an observation. And their marriage is, this many, many, many years later, and they're still happily married. So clearly, whatever he figured out has definitely worked for them. But I think that like when you go into a depth of relationship, just trying to please each other on the surface is just no longer any good. And so my wife would call me out on this stuff, and usually I would try to please my customer over pleasing her. Yeah. Like all the time. And like all the time. And my way of rationalizing it was that, look, you need me to earn a good income for you and for the kids. And in order for me to do that, I need to keep my customers happy, because that's all I've got is my reputation. Yeah. It's me, my reputation, or the poorhouse. Like that's just where we're at. And so don't call me out on trying to please my customer, because that's how this machine runs. Right. So that was my rationalization. And I lived with it until it almost killed me. Like it was just getting to be absolutely unhealthy. Then I had a revelation one day, and I realized, I'm like, when a customer called me for a job, they said, hey, we need to do this job. I would go, cool. I go measure the job. check it out, and say, when do you need it done by? And they're like, as soon as possible, which means nothing. But to me, it was like, okay.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as possible means literally that, which I've learned over the years. But at the time, I'm like, it's now where I don't get the job. And so there's this frailty, this lack of trust, this frailty.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay. And so then I'd look at my schedule and I'd be like, how about in 3 weeks? And they're like, how long does a job take? 1 day. I know. And this is the thing. And contractors, like, if you're listening and you're saying this isn't you, then come on, man. Like, this is all of us. We all measure our pace and our performance by the best day we ever had. When we were at the prime of our life, that is the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And so we disappoint ourselves all the time because, yes, it's possible to do the timeline that you just set out, but it is not likely. Everything has to align. The weather has to be right. The right birds have to be singing right beside your ear to keep your attitude in the right place. You got to get up on the right side. There's too many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we are.
Yeah.
And so then I'd walk away, and the customer now expects me to be there in 3 weeks for it to take 1 day. Mm-hmm. And that's the expectation. And I'll tell you, there was a day when I would back away from that. And so then I would do it. Like, I would push myself to do it. Then I backed away from that one day, and I'm like, wait a second. I told them what to expect.
Yeah.
They had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Absolutely zero idea. So I placed parameters not around them. I made myself an almost unachievable now commitment.
You built a
because
box
I'm a man of
yourself.
my word. So this is what's going to happen.
Right.
And I was the one to do it because of insecurity, because of trying to please someone, be trying to pretend that this is what is the engine that keeps my family fed.
Right.
There's so much about that that's wrong.
Yeah.
And I was my own worst enemy. And I will tell you that probably the biggest shift in this came when I realized, wait a second, I have to watch what I say. I have to make sure that I do not hang myself.
Mm-hmm.
When you get arrested, they say anything that you say can and will be held against you. And I'm telling you, life is like that. And we hang ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
So my approach has been a complete 180 from that in the last longest while. And it has probably been the most significant difference to my family. And that's when I've said, my first question when someone calls me for a job now, I'm like, so what's your timeline? That's my first question. And they're like, well, just hoping that you could get it in sometime this season. I'm like, perfect. I'll come out and take a look at your job. Yeah. If they say, well, we need it done as soon as possible, I will look at my schedule, and I always will have my schedule panned out across a season. Yeah. So like right now, my schedule for this season, we're in March, and my season's basically starting formally in just under 2 weeks. And my season's full, essentially. But I have room for a few jobs, and I can fit them in absolutely anywhere in between bigger jobs. If they're the right style of jobs for the right type of people, I can fit in a few. But right now, it's an open door. We can figure it out. But if someone says, I need my job done tomorrow, I'll be like, call my buddy Josh at Ridgeline. Literally.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you know what? Like, that's just not going to happen. If I happen to be in between jobs right then and able to jump on it and fit something in without putting someone else out, I'll do what I can. But I realize that perception is king. And when you place a perception in someone's mind, then they have an expectation, which is totally fair.
Right.
And you now have a commitment. And so I am so ambiguous now, it's not even funny. Like, I will tell people, I'll say, well, so beginning of the season or end of the season? They'll say, you know what? I don't really care. I'm like, I'm open. And so long as it's before the snow flies next year, we're good. If that's the case, I will put them in my book as a confirmed job that can go in anytime. And I'll tell them, you know what? I'll let you know a few weeks before I get there. And that is it. And if they're ever worried, they can call me and I'll be like, yeah, you're on my list. I'm going to be there and it's going to be fine. If it starts to get near the end of the season, I'll communicate with them a bit more just to make sure that they know I haven't forgotten not to give them an exact time. Right. I will tell you the freeing part of that has been unbelievable. And it is, and I understand that not all businesses can run this way,
Right.
but most can. Most do not have to be nearly as detailed in their schedule as they are.
Yeah.
And even if you feel like you need to be more detailed, it is so much more freeing to say someone, I'll be there the last half of May, rather than to say I'll be there on the 16th of May. Even if they're penciled in for the 16th of May, and that's where they should be according to everything else as it rolls out.
Yeah.
But if you can tell them, look, we'll be there within the last 2 weeks of May, and we'll let you know exactly the date as we get closer.
Right.
The freeing part of that is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, you can still people please, but much more healthily.
Yeah.
In that now you're setting out something that, yeah, I want to please them. I don't want to be an idiot and like have them waiting for, a season and then showing up the next season. Like, that's trash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not at all what I'm talking about. But I'm saying if they're giving you latitude, take it and ask for latitude.
Yeah.
This is the same, and this applies in so many other ways. But I think in our world, talking about customers this way is the easiest way for it to hit home.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started to do that and be comfortable with giving away jobs that I simply can't fit in,
Yeah.
that's hard, man. But then I realized, no. This is part of being a blessing.
Yeah.
I can point other good contractors around that need the work or that would be happy to have it at the very least, that are a good fit for this customer. This is a blessing. This is not a bad thing.
Right.
This is called being a community member.
Yeah.
And so, nobody minds being turned away if you actually can't get to them. If you can give them a great recommend, man, you're still their friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to make enemies. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a people pleaser controlled to that place where I'm actually failing with everyone around me. Because typically the people that we please the least are the ones that are closest.
Yeah, and so that goes back to the family thing.
It does.
Because I think we measure the risk, and I go, if I disappoint this customer, I could lose this $70,000 job.
That's right.
If I upset my wife, she'll forgive me.
Yes.
And
she's committed to
and
me.
we take advantage of that.
Yeah.
We go,
yeah,
like she's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
She's an awesome woman, and she's so forgiving, and
Yeah.
and I abuse her graciousness in order to please other people.
Yes.
And
which is so backwards.
Yeah. The person that I love the most,
Yeah.
I end up treating sometimes the worst.
Yeah.
Because I can get away with it.
and like I say, and often that parameter that you set to please them is your own words, your own mouth as well. So it's not even actually the person that you're trying to please. You're trying to please your own expectation.
Yeah. So there's two, and maybe I'm seeing this wrong, but it feels like there's kind of two sides to this. There's this side of, and actually I want to rewind for a second just to clarify for people. Part of why we're having this conversation is because Kenton came to us as a team just recently, and he was seeing these things in our lives and called them out. So for me specifically, this was the piece. He's like, Joel, I see this happening with you. I see this in your life, and I think if you can deal with this, man, it'd be a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
And so I'm super thankful for that. But that's part of why we're wrestling with this right now. And so I'm really keen not just to have an interesting podcast conversation about this. I'm like, this is real for me. I need to tackle this, and I know that future upgrades for my life are contingent on how I engage this.
100%.
And so I want real solutions.
Yeah.
And so there's the two sides that I'm seeing right now, and tell me if they're not actually two different sides. But the two that I'm seeing is, one, I can manage the expectations to a degree where in what I communicate, how I say things to people, I can not box myself in unintentionally into places I don't want to be.
And you can still do it with class and with service in mind.
Yes.
This is an important component for me. Like, I think if you talk to my customers, they will say that I treat them well. Like my calendar is always filled up well in advance. And I think that's a testament to, I treat my customers well, but I do not box myself in, like you're saying.
Yeah. So that's one piece. But then the other piece is, and what I see, and I see that affecting me. I think the way that I choose to communicate about work and
and can I say one quick thing as I'm thinking about it, is that part of that is really pausing before you give those commitments and actually thinking about it, rather than being like looking cool and just be like, yeah, no, we'll fit you in right there. Like, rather than doing that, is to actually take the breath, step away.
Let me look at the calendar.
And often I'll be like, we'll talk about scheduling the next day even. Yes, you want me to do the job, great, we'll talk about scheduling. So it gives me time to actually, especially when I was getting used to this, because I was so used to being decisive and looking like the man, saying this is when we're going to get her done, and I would do it, but at tremendous cost. Tremendous. Sorry.
So that's one piece.
Yes.
Is changing how we communicate, how we set up expectations for ourselves. The other side is all of these other situations where maybe we haven't communicated anything.
Yeah.
And like thinking of the work hours thing, like I'm operating based on imagined expectations where nobody ever said anything about how things should be or how they would feel if things went this way versus this way.
Yeah.
And it feels a lot more like there's tangible ways forward with the first part, where I can say, okay, our policy from now on is we don't book customers into the calendar in the first conversation.
Yes.
We we call them back, or conversation 2, or whatever the policy ends up being. I can make some practical changes like that.
Yes, you can.
For me, I think there's a deeper thing that needs to happen.
Yes. Yeah, there is.
That is the source of a lot of this other stuff that's going on where it's just in the realm of my imagination.
So this is very true. And let me tell you a little bit of my journey. And again, on this side of things, I would say I'm a recovering addict. And so I'm on my way. Like it's been a while since I was really ruled by this, but it's still recent enough that I can taste it. And so there is a discipline of the mind that is required. And I think that we are typically not super disciplined about our minds. I think that we try to be, and we work in that direction at times and seasons of our life, but often we're lazy about what goes on in our minds. And I will give a description of this as best I can. When I used to run the cabinet company, I was dealing with a lot of customers every day, like many more customers than I am now. Now I do a lot larger projects, and so there's less wheels spinning, less plates spinning at one given time, which I have consciously created that for myself because I'm much better project oriented. Yeah. However, at the time I was dealing with a lot of customers, and we had a fairly large staff, and there was just a lot of stuff going on. And so as normal boss, when something would hit the fan, I would get the call. Which is fine. Like there's whatever. And you know what, like I probably at the time should have had a layer in between, but whatever. It was still the way it was. And I would get a call from a dissatisfied customer, and immediately I'd feel something in the pit of my stomach. Like that's just me. That's that people pleasing side. I'm like, ugh. Like we did everything. We put out the effort for this person. Like this is a good job, and it was the right job, and all of those things. So immediately my mind starts spinning and my stomach starts spinning immediately because that's just me. Yeah. And I'm like, dang, like what is it? And so if they'd call, at the end of a day or whatever, I wouldn't get the call because I was with other customers. And so then I'd have to get back to them the next day. Sweet Lord, that night, my brain on overdrive. Yeah. Guaranteed. Yeah. On overdrive. And this is precisely what we're talking about here. It's like, this is not a healthy reaction. This is not something that I could control. Yeah. Right? Like this is just doing business. And so, yeah, obviously, I mean, we use every mistake as a learning opportunity, et cetera, but you can't avoid all mistakes. And so the challenge of being a good business person is like, what do you do with a mistake? Well, I'll tell you what a people pleaser does. Chew on it 18 million ways. And I would devise all the possible issues in my head through that night. I wouldn't sleep well. I'd wake up rugged. This is just me. And it was just a call saying that there's a problem. Like, I have no idea what it is. But in my mind, I've got 18 different things it could be. They're all terrible. I'm all like, they're all bringing shame on me almost. And so then I'm like, okay, whatever. And then in the morning, you know what you do. And you're just like, all right, like, let's just deal with this. Let's get this out of the way. And so you go out to the customer's place or whatever to take a look, and they walk you through, and they're just pumped. They're like, this is phenomenal. Oh yeah, but the one thing I called you about is like, there's a bit of toe kick missed here. And you're like, oh yeah, sure. We'll get Buddy out here, in 15 minutes and get this snapped on, right? Like you just didn't know. And what I realized is that, and even if it was something serious, it's like I would still be wrong in what I was assuming. And this internal, like absolute it's almost like self-cannibalizing yourself. Like you're just eating yourself up and you don't even know why.
Yeah.
And it's as if we expect this level of perfection, because I think people pleasing and perfectionism are really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so you want to be perfect, but we can't be perfect. And the more staff you have, the more chances that someone's learning something. And so, which is healthy. Like, it's not even bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I all of a sudden one day realized how I was going to end, my life was going to end earlier because of this. Like, I could feel it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is taking a toll, and it is not healthy. And so I'm like, okay, I have to promise myself to stop my imagination. I have to, when I hear someone has an issue, I have to back away and be like, okay, I get it. I have to face it first and say, yes, there's an issue. Feel it in my gut for a second and be like, you know what? I'm just going to stop guessing and I'm going to set this over there as much as possible. And it's taken time. And that's why I say I'm recovering, because it's still hard for me. But as much as possible, shut my brain off to that. I will deal with it tomorrow. When I know what it is, we can deal with it. It's inanimate. My wife, she worked in the NICU with neonatal intensive care with babies. And she used to tell me, she's like, you can't be that concerned. Your stuff is inanimate. If you make a mistake, everyone still lives. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true, man. Like, it's true. And so I just had to realize, and often I would find that people will make an issue seem way bigger than it is because they feel like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Like, that is just the way that our culture has, I think in general, evolved, is that, you've got to make a fuss or else nobody will do anything about it. Mm-hmm. And so people will often make a bigger deal about something than they actually, it sounds to me like their life is ruined because one cabinet door is the wrong color. You know what I mean? Like, slightly different shade if you look at it from this angle.
In the right light, yeah.
And it's like, but in truth, all it is like, hey, we'd just like to have this fixed. That's really what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then there's been slow things through my life to reinforce that, to say like, you know what? And even at the end of the day, if we're not perfect, sometimes we have to also accept that, do the best we can, and then just realize that, hey, this time we weren't where we should have been. And so,
yeah. And that's where my mind was going, is I think, we gotta get rid of the imagination of things that aren't real.
Yeah.
Because it's so destructive. But then sometimes what other people are thinking of us is real. And there is somebody looking at your life and going, wow, I can't believe that he's such and such.
Sure.
And I sure wouldn't do it that way.
Yeah.
Or I don't think he deserves to be treated so well, whatever.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. And
so there is this piece also of just embracing it and going, you know what? I am not going to build my life on somebody else's negative perception of me.
Cannot.
And I think that's probably the hardest piece for me, is I've always prided myself on being really well liked.
Mm-hmm.
And this probably goes back to, I remember a point in time where somebody asked me about enemies.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't have any.
Sure.
And I really thought about it.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't think of anybody
Yeah.
that I considered an enemy.
Yeah.
And I remember being so proud of that. And I think I've decided I'm going to hold on to that. And so I've made it this mission in my life to be enemy free, to have nobody that thinks ill of me. And so then on a subconscious level, I'm always working to, if this person's perception of me is dropping, I got to bump it back up, because I need to always maintain at least a 70% or whatever, like these imaginary things that we don't even measure.
But yet the measurement is somehow very real.
The measurement's real.
Absolutely.
It's totally made up and non-concrete and
but
whatever.
It's there.
But it's there, and we're doing it. And there's three pieces. There's a piece where we can change how we set expectations and perceptions.
Yes.
By making tangible choices.
Yes.
How we communicate, etc. 2, we can take practical steps to kill the imagination of things that are not.
Yes, we can.
Not real.
Yeah.
And 3, when people judge us or think wrongly about us in whatever way, we can make the decision not to build our life, change our decisions based on those things.
Yeah. That's a good summary. It's a really solid summary. And I think with that last point, I'm not sure how much reading you've done of Brene Brown, but she's done some interesting work around these things.
Mm-hmm.
And her one comment around this is that she has a 1 by 1 inch piece of paper in her wallet with all the names of the critiques that matter. And she says everyone that matters as far as can speak into her life is on that 1 by 1 inch piece of paper. She said you can fit about 8 names. And I've thought about that often because I want my customers to give me a good review, but will I live with a bad review? Oh yeah. And in fact, this is, and it's kind of a funny, in my journey of this, back in the cabinet days again, just because of the sheer number of clients, I have so many stories around this. And I also wasn't and because of my people pleasing nature, typically if I'm on a job, then I will find a way to please the people. And so, but when you're sending people out there, it's not always, it's just what it is. I had this customer who was just crazily demanding in ways like his son drove his Tonka truck into the side of his island, and he expected me to replace the panel for free because it was scratched. And I'm just like, to this degree. And I was just, and by the time he got to this one, I'm like, no, like this is just like I'm sorry. And it was also in Fort St. James, so it's like whatever, a 3-hour drive, and so round trip, I don't know what it is, like 4.5 hour drive or whatever to get there and back, and then do whatever it is that he wanted. And by this time, I'm like, there was just one day I just sat there and I listened to him. I'm like, no, we're done. Like this is my people pleasing. You've used up my people pleasing. Like we're done. And I'd never gotten to that place with a customer before. And he goes, I will tell everybody I know to never use you guys. And I'm like, you know what? I think we'll survive that. And that was the end of the conversation. And I was like, oh gee. I'm like, and some of my employees were near me and they're like, was that who we think it was? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, way to go. I'm like, well, I don't know if I feel good about that. It's just what it was, right? Like I was just done. Interestingly, and this was a big lesson for me, and I don't know if it's a God thing, it feels that way to me, is that so a couple years later, we're doing another job in Fort St. James. Happens to be the dude's neighbor. We're talking like way out a different community where we barely ever work. Yeah. Literally, his neighbor didn't even listen to his own criticism because the people knew not to take him serious because he's a shyster. Yeah. And so it just dawned on me. I'm like, wait a second. Some customers, like if they're actually not well intentioned at all, it's better that they're not pleased with you because it's like you don't want their recommend.
No.
Right. And so, and this doesn't apply to many people, thankfully. It's not a common thing, but I just thought it was so amazing because when I found out it was actually his neighbor, I'm like, wow, that's just like, it felt really good to me. It's like, and people pleasing. And the problem was like, there's nothing I could have done enough for that person to be happy. Nothing. And so at a certain point, sometimes when you hit a wall, you're like, your people pleasing nature is like, but give me a chance. And then you go there and then it's like, no, that's not enough yet. And so I think those things also kind of break you down and realize, no, the world can go on if not everyone is pleased with you. And I mean, I don't have a lot of enemies and I do value that, but I have made some enemies. And what my question is at this point in my life is if I've made an enemy, I'm like, over what? For what reason? Is it because I'm stupid, lazy, dishonest, those things? That's a problem. But if it's because I've done something and stood my ground on something that I felt was very important, that it was principled, and I lost someone that way, I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'll take that. Yeah. I think it's the right thing to do at times.
Yeah. And I think part of this, I'm just thinking for myself, some of my practical situations, it's a matter of reframing things. Yeah. Like I think what you were saying earlier about your wife paying the price for you choosing to please customers, and for me reframing things, like, because my temptation will be, if a situation comes up with a customer, to go, oh, I'm going to wreck this thing. And that's all that I see. Yes. But if I can reframe it as I'm choosing not to wreck something with my family rather than not wreck something with this customer. Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, it's a really different decision. Yeah. And so sometimes I think I just need to bring something else into the picture. Yeah. So I'm seeing the bigger picture and not just this narrow slice. Yeah. I did this with pricing for years. I would price too low for years, and it came out of people pleasing. I'm just like, I do not want to rip anyone off. Okay, fair. You don't want to rip some people off, but you got to make a living. Yeah. And ultimately, when you're a family man, your family pays the price. Right. And so I can remember my wife like calling me out on it pretty intensely at one point. She's like, why? Like, why would you work for that price when you know going in that it's not the right price? Yeah. And she's like, do you think they would not hire you if you charge more? And I'm like, actually, no, I think they would. Like, this is the stupid thing. And so I started edging my price up. Yeah. Because I started to realize, I'm like, no, every dollar that I make extra on this job means I can spend an extra hour with my family. Yeah. Like, there's a direct correlation here. It's not indirect. Yeah. Like, there's a direct correlation. And so and again, like I started my career, I would go price a job, and I was single and young. So in fairness, like whatever. And so I'd price a job, I'd measure it up and stuff, be there in my old blue truck that I bought for $200 at the auction. You know, it was great. And I'd sit out front. I'd say, give me 15 minutes. No, that's not even true. I would make the price right in front of the customer. I would talk to them as I'm talking. I would fill it out and hand them the sheet. Eventually I started just like pricing too low too often. And so then I would say, okay, listen, I'm going to go out to my truck, give me 15 minutes and I'll come back to you with a price. And huge difference, huge step in the right direction, just taking that pause and not speaking and thinking. Yeah. And I have this theory, and this is an aside, but I always feel like whenever I'm dealing with anything that matters, I need to go into the details, out to the broad, into the details, out to the broad a number of times to make sure I'm not making mistakes. Because I always feel like if you're just in at the details, you know, really detailed people can make extremely terrible mistakes when it comes to quoting because they're just in at the details. Whereas if they took one moment to just step back, they're like, wait a second, like, obviously that's the wrong price for this job. Like, that's important to take that. And if you're talking to someone, you're not mentally doing those acrobatics. So I started to do that. Then I changed yet one more time as I got older, and my demand increased. That's also part of the equation. So this is not something that you can necessarily do right off the hop, but I started to take more and more time with my quotes often, especially the bigger, more complex ones, not because the calculations took that long. I really needed to think about what I needed to make on this job for me to spend time away from my family.
And that was my equation. I started to think, can I? And this is this is the tool that I'm recommending. In my mind, I would have a conversation with my wife. And I would say, I've just got this job and this is how long it's going to take, give or take. This is approximately where in the schedule I'm going to do it. And this is what I'm going to bring home from it. And if I could have that mental conversation with my wife and feel good about the conversation, I'm like, okay, we're there. And if I couldn't,
that's cool.
I would increase the price. And you know what? I never lost jobs around this, like ever. I don't know of, man, I don't know. I don't think I have. Like, it's not something that has pushed customers away. In turn, I think ironically, people are more happy when you charge the right price, do the right job that they expect, and you end up being friends with these people. And in the end, you end up pleasing them, but in a roundabout way. With more posture, with more longevity, because you're not trading long-term relationships for short-term, calisthenics where you're trying to like stretch in a certain way to make them happy with you. Instead, you're just like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And they might be slightly like uncertain about you along the way. And then when you come through and it works and, if there's an issue, you go out and you take care of it. That's a good relationship. And so you end up pleasing them. They end up pleasing you, but it's not the main objective going in.
Yeah, there's a lot to all of this. And I've been thinking this for a long time. I keep hoping for a silver bullet that's like a quick fix. Oh, if I just have this revelatory thought, then everything will be different and I just won't do this anymore. But I'm not expecting that anymore. I do hope that it's not a 30-year process, but I do think a big piece of it is just choosing to have these conversations. And it's part of why I so appreciated you bringing it up intentionally the way that you did. Not because I wasn't already thinking about it. Actually, the last 2 weeks, this has been heavy on my mind. And my wife has been like,
keeping it heavily on your mind.
Keeping it heavily on my mind. But
God bless her.
It added fuel to this conviction in me that something actually needs to change. And I think that's a big part of this, is just looking at it and saying definitively, this is not okay the way that it is. And it might be a 6-month or a 6-year or whatever process to see real change happen. But to name that and say, this is unhealthy. And I'm going to engage it. And so this conversation is helpful for me. There's stuff that I'm pulling out of it. I don't think it's going to change everything, but I want to have another conversation next week and another conversation with my wife probably 2 days from now. And another conversation with her 10 days from now. And keep going after it, because I'm not happy. This isn't how I want to live my life. I don't wake up and feel good about going into work, even though I love my job for the most part.
And you love the people you're working with.
There's
for the
these
most part.
unnecessary boulders that I carry with me, and I want them gone. And I think this has been helpful for that. So.
And I encourage you, and you know this, but I'm encouraging you at the same time, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, because it's challenging to change deep set things. And so look for gains, celebrate them, but also be kind to yourself, because it's not a straight line. And so, but I think direction change is evident fairly quickly. I think that if you're making different decisions and you're feeling, that feeling in your gut, like I used to live, it's just as simple as I used to tell my wife when I was going to be home from work, and I would always be later. And that time between when I told her and when I was later, my gut was just a mess, because I knew I was letting her down, and I wasn't trying to lie to her. I wasn't trying to be dishonest. It was just the way it was. And then I'm like, man, I've just got to change. And so these are the things that, and looking back now, like I don't have that feeling day by day anymore, but it took time to change it. But I started going in the right direction and be like, I'm gonna I'm going to just make changes. I'm going to be careful what I say. And I think that's a huge, it seems not a big deal, but man, our words, geez, like I'll tell you what, it's like who can control his tongue? He'll stand before great men. Like that's just,
I read that verse this morning.
Oh man.
Yeah.
This is great.
Really good. Really good.
All right. Well, thank you, Joel. We're going to do this again.
I'm counting on it.
Appreciate it.
All right.